Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. We hope you guys are having an awesome day, and thanks so much for joining us. Our guest today is Chris Swenson, licensed marriage and family therapist of Rhino Wellness, and he's going to be talking to us today on Private Practice Warrior, Mastering the Inner Game. So the reality is that business is mostly mindset. So we're going to be diving into that stuff today. I know a lot of times as business owners, we want to know what is the best strategy to get clients. That is not always the answer. And most often we're really needing to do our own personal development and growth work. So we're going to be talking all about that today. And the great thing as clinicians is you're already primed for mindset. But when it comes to being a business owner and entrepreneur, mindset's a little bit different. So we're going to help you guys work on that today. We hope you guys joined us last week as we interviewed Sid from Wise Hire. That was an awesome and amazing podcast. He has so much energy and excitement. And we talked about the 3 keys to hiring employees you can trust. Super essential. They delve into why they use the DISC profile and why they use the DISC profile to really find the perfect person that you are looking to hire. If you are brand new here, we want to say welcome you to the Startup Nation family, and we have a gift for you. That is our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing your dream practice. Head over to privatepracticestartup.com. Check out the resources tab, and there you'll see it. It is also supported by 5 days of practice building emails, because our desire is really for you to have a practice of your dreams. And if you're a longtime listener, we love you guys. We just really appreciate you coming back. And why don't we begin to dive in today's topic? So just a little bit about Chris. He is the author of the recently published book, Private Practice Warrior, owner and founder, the solo operator of Rhino Wellness Center, which is Chris's successful full-time solo practice in rural Colorado. A true private practice warrior who believes that therapists in private practice are in the best position to truly make a difference in the mental health concerns of our world. And Chris, like myself, is a bit freaked out by snakes. So a little fun fact for you guys there. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Yeah,
great to have you here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really excited about this topic. And I know that we've seen you kind of in the Facebook groups, and I reached out to you and I'm like, this would be a great topic for Startup Nation. So maybe just share with us, what is a private practice warrior?
Well, for me, like, a private practice warrior is an identity. It's something that is a mindset. I guess you could say identity mindset. Don't get too much into the specifics of the definition of what they are, but it's essentially those kind of things. And it all kind of came from when I was really looking around about like why practices fail. And I read all the numbers, from like the Small Business Administration about how many people fail in a year, how many people fail in 10 years. And then I looked at it with our latest technology and all this support and all these trainings that we have access to today. And like the numbers don't change over time. So then I was like, well, what's kind of the missing factor? And without having to spend the next 40 years doing research, I find that a lot of it has to do with the mindset, the mental game. And so once I looked at, okay, how do you keep that and master that? I put together a lot of that formulated identity of what a private practice warrior is, what a private practice warrior represents, and taking that kind of that lens towards your practice enables you to be a little more successful in that kind of.
What brought you to discover the private practice warrior?
I think for me, I look at it like from the book, it's essentially my own mindset. To a point, it's my first practice. When I first started out, I was doing fairly well, but you just couldn't get over this hump. Like there was something that wasn't quite there. And I did a lot of work with like mindset, mental toughness, mental practices, stuff like that. And after doing a lot of those and knowing why I do what I do, what I stand for, what I represent, and every single day paying attention to that, then my practice just took off.
That's awesome. What are some of the things that you had to overcome really looking at yourself to be where you are in business today?
I think a lot of it is mainly most of us as therapists are pretty introverted. So we don't get ourselves to go out a whole lot. So people have told me you're very much maybe socially introverted, where I can learn to be that. There's a lot of things even in my own personal life, I was married for a long time. That was not the greatest marriage. And so there was not allowing myself to put myself out there for some of those reasons, where now I've been separated for a bit and it's a lot different, where now I can finally get myself going out there. But I was in a fortunate spot when I got my practice, because being in a rural area, it's a very big need. And so I had people approach me we need a really good provider, Chris. And I remember telling them, all right, I'll go look for that person. No, that's you. I'm okay. But one advantage I do have is I have business degrees. I lived in the business world before being a therapist. So it's a nice, easy transition for me with a lot of operating a business. It was just balancing a lot of the day-to-day everything, getting all your little systems all fine-tuned. And then even when I looked at how fast can I get stuff done, all time stuff, there's many different tools and stuff to be able to be more productive in a quicker time without being distracted by the latest shiny object, stuff like that.
True. SOS, shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, even with projects that I even work on now, even with the book, I had that idea, and then I was starting to go along that path, and then I saw a local nonprofit didn't get some funding, and so I thought, well, maybe I could assist with them, and so I jumped over there and started working on that. And then I'm oh, no, get back to. So there's a lot of different ways in which, for me, it's all right, identify your high-value targets, stay focused, finish the project.
Totally. And so, why do practices fail? What's the inner stuff about why they fail?
For me, I don't know if it's a particular thing. It's if there's one message I think that if anybody can get out of this today, is just don't ever, ever forget about that it's always going on every minute. Even when you're learning, it's still there. And I get an example of when people first start their practice. You go out and I think you could probably spend a weekend and you could find out with a lot of checklists what you need to do to actually build a practice and get it going. The difference is sustaining it and keeping it going is going to be up to you. You're the one who makes the decisions. You're the one who do this. So it comes down to you and what goes on in your mind. And it's not necessarily a lot of what we go back to graduate school and start going back to our childhood and family of origin. It's not even a lot of those kind of things. It gets to be where, you finally get to practice and you identify a niche, say adolescent female trauma victims or something. And you start the practice, and after a bit, you're getting some clientele, but you're not quite getting enough. And pretty soon, some fear, maybe some insecurity starts setting in, and that can start influencing you to widen the net a little bit. And then, I'm starting to bring in some depression people, anxiety people, and next thing you know, I'm doing couples counseling, family counseling, and then I got a full practice. It's just, and then you realize one day, wow, now I'm stressed to the hilt with clients that I'm really not excited about. And so that fear and stuff got in to just fine tune me in a different direction. And then you start getting burnt out, which from that you get frustration, exhaustion that gets into your head, and you're making decisions from that place. And it keeps fine tuning to the point where it'll just erase that you forget about why you even did this in the first place.
It's such a common issue that clinicians struggle with in private practice because of that fear-based scarcity mindset of if I niche down and really focus on my true passion and really specialize in that area with my ideal client, that I won't be able to fill my practice. I won't be able to pay my bills. I'm going to struggle. There's not enough people to go around. And it really does influence people to work with more of a generalist practice. And you just gave the perfect continuum of how that kind of sneaks up on people. And all of a sudden they find themselves with a full practice, but not enjoying themselves and not doing their best work, not working with the people that they're truly called to serve, and feeling burnout. And that's a lot of times how clinicians come to find us and work with us in coaching, because we believe so strongly in the importance of really tackling these mindset issues at the forefront, and then also over time, because they pop up, they're like a little, critic on your shoulder. Yeah, a little gremlin on your shoulder, the mindset issues, and they really wreak havoc in your practice if you don't tackle those. And then also, if you're not clear on who you're serving and really staying true to the population that you were really called to serve, that you love working with, that you're really fulfilled by and do your best work with, then, you really can go in that negative experience with your practice.
One of the interesting things that I find is a lot of times, clinicians and even other business owners, I know that we're not, it's very much the same anywhere, but we're looking for strategy. So it's funny because we'll have podcasts on strategy specific things, but the downloads for people listening to the more vulnerable stuff, the fear stuff, all of that stuff is way more. So I think there's this kind of disconnect of, hey, I want to build a business. What's the best strategy, or what should I do next? And wow, I'm really dealing with all this fear stuff that either we're not talking about enough, or we're not sharing, or we're uncomfortable, right? Because all of those, the fear of failure, the fear of success, feeling ashamed, all of that stuff comes up. So Chris, as people are dealing with this stuff, maybe in their mind, like, how do you help them recognize it, and what can they do about it?
I think the biggest part is all we've been trained to is really paying attention, having that awareness to start with. And to me, you have to be challenged in order for all of it to start surfacing. Like, if you're comfortable, it's just not going to happen. And to me, like, part of like Private Practice Warrior, part of the identity is you just don't create a practice to make a lot of money, or you're making a practice to have the greatest practice ever. It kind of goes back to a lot of the arts or martial art kind of stuff, where it's not just how to teach you how to hit, kick, or just give you the right marketing plan, all this stuff. There's something to it about who you are as a person. And so building the practice is the challenge that you need to become a better person. And so through a lot of those challenges that you might face, if it's, oh my gosh, they don't have enough money, and how am I going to collect from them? And I feel really bad. And you get a lot of the, like you said, the gremlin stuff going on. Those are those moments that you have an opportunity then to either fine tune where you need to go, or you're going to be pulled away. And a lot of what in the book, I talk about like the path to success. And so to me, like, a path has a right side, it has a left side. We can all talk about what's more right or left, but it essentially the path to success. And to me, like, the right side I look at as mastery. The left side would be service. And if people want to flip them, they can do that. It doesn't matter. It's just the two sides, mastery, service. Those become the two things that if what you're doing is related to any of those two things, which is mastering what you do, becoming better at, operating a private practice, or, better at who you are as a person, but then also being of service. How are you of service to those you serve? How can you identify their particular needs? If everything you're doing is related to those two things, you're on the right track. It's when you're not, then you're off in the jungle, and you got to be very, very cautious of what's going on. But it can be very subtle. It's just a matter of, like, when you sit down and you got to type up notes, or you want to do billing. It would be easy just to go home and leave, or whatever, or something like that. But it's the discipline to say, no, I need to do this because that's who I am. That's what I do. So a lot of, for me, like, with being a warrior is being very clear on why I do what I do, the purpose. What is the mission of my practice? Who are those people that I truly do serve? And that's where I focus on. And every single day I'll review my purpose. Every single day I'll take a look at my principles of what I stand for. And the principles are not something that you just live by. Those things you got to go out every day and earn those by how you act, how you exude. And many of that can be looked into branding. People are familiar with branding. It's that stuff too about what you stand for, what you represent, all of those things. that sets that day up to be very focused on what it is that I need to do and not getting so distracted by a lot of different things. But you can go into even like imposter syndrome stuff that'll come up a lot of times that, like I said, it's like you can hear about it, but once you get faced with it, now it's game on. It's to be very aware of it. And if you're not aware of it, then it's going to pull you off for a little bit until somebody snaps you out of that, hopefully in time. Yeah.
It's interesting as I hear you talk. I don't know why I sit on the other side of this mic, and I'm constantly surprised by people kind of, sharing what we believe, what we say, and things like that. But it's always so validating. And I know for me, there's this process that I go through. And I know one of the beautiful things, and you said this, is the journey of entrepreneurship is really a mirror to you. And if you choose to accept the challenge, you come out as a way better person. But if you don't, we can fall into blame and, victimization and things like that, thinking something's wrong out there, right? But when this is what you're talking about, really mastering that inner game of self. I know Kate and I just had an e-course launch, and I'll tell you, if you want to grow, you should definitely level up or do a launch. It is moment by moment, because you're in it, that you have to look at yourself. I did some self-directed EMDR on myself one morning before. But part of being an entrepreneur is really having some type of habit of mindset. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. And so for the people that you've come in contact with, what are some of the things that they do to stay aware of this and then kind of tackle it as it comes up besides the awareness?
I think it's being real with yourself. Like when you talk about a launch, there are many times where it's like, look, if you've never done this, there's a learning curve to this. So don't expect. I mean, if you come in and with a timeline, more than likely your timeline might not be accurate. So don't get too busted up because you missed the timeline.
You're speaking right to me, Chris, and I think Kate is smiling because she's like, this is what I tell her. Because I go for goals and then I get really disappointed, right? Yep. And then we actually have an awesome little chat with Allison Prier and Laura Long, Kate, and myself, where it's like a little mini support group, a tech support group. And sometimes when I do get caught up in that stuff, they just remind me, think about how many therapists' lives you're going to change. And the beauty is, as a therapist, is not only are we affecting one person, but we're affecting many. And when you're a coach for therapists, that's a huge deal. And I say that coaches, and I remind myself, and this is what you're saying, is really keeping the mission present, is that Kate and I don't fulfill our mission unless they fulfill theirs, right? So when they have a practice that they love working with their ideal clients, that's when we fulfill them. And I get chills as I say that, because that's way more exciting than how many coaches do we have, right?
Absolutely.
So I love that you talk about realigning yourself with your vision and mission every day. Sorry, I jumped in, but I got excited about that. I had to share.
No, that's all fine. No, but that's exactly how it works. Like you might not be aware of what it can be. People can be like, oh, no, I don't have any problem accepting money. And then all of a sudden you get in a situation, you get these weird feelings going on. You have no idea. And like I said, if you're not aware of something, it's just going to take you to a place. And so a lot of it is like the purpose, knowing exactly why you do what you do, knowing, and I think a lot of it too, like learning. Like all of us in graduate school learn how to run a therapy session. So you're paying attention to a lot of variables. There's a lot of techniques and stuff that we all had to learn. To me, running the business is nothing but running like a therapeutic operation. It's just so for me, when I look at private practice, to me, and where some of the stuff from my book comes from as being more of a warrior. I mean, it's people that are at an agency, a lot of times, it's like the regular army. You have your job. This is what you do. If you're infantry, infantry. You're cavalry, you're cavalry. If you're doing therapy, doing therapy. Well, here it's kind of like, no, it could be just by yourself, like a 007 type agent or a small team, where you're looking at more special operations type community, where you not only are engaged in doing these stuff, but you're planning, you're marketing. And to me, it's the ability that's cool for private practice owners is you can get really up close and personal with the people you serve and get beyond just doing the therapy. There can be a lot of ways to help out people beyond just therapy to reach a lot of those too. So.
Nice. Before we continue, I'm excited about this topic. We have to take a break for our sponsor.
There are so many ways to keep your practice organized, but Therapy Notes is by far the best. Their easy-to-use, secure platform lets you not only do billing, scheduling, and progress notes, but also create a client portal to share documents and request signatures. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone support. So when you have a question, they're there so you can get help fast. Get started with Therapy Notes today, trusted by over 60,000 professionals. Go to therapynotes.com and enter promo code PPS, as in Private Practice Startup, and you'll get 2 months for free. Also, you can listen to episode 54, where we interviewed Brad Pleiner and took an in-depth view into their EHR. If you're in private practice, you wear a lot of hats. And some of those hats are totally great, but some, like filing taxes and running payroll, for example, not so great. That's where Gusto comes in. They make payroll, taxes, and HR actually easy for small businesses like your private practice. Fast, simple payroll processing and benefits, and expert HR support all in one place. Gusto automatically pays and files your federal, state, and local taxes so you don't have to worry about it. Plus, they make it easy for you to add on health benefits and even 401ks for you and your team. Let them wear one of your many hats. You have so many better things to do with your time. Listeners get 3 months free when they run their first payroll. Try a demo and see for yourself at gusto.com/PPS. That's gusto.com/PPS.
So Chris, I know that we've kind of just like dove in and just kind of took this natural progression, but I really want to make sure that you have the opportunity to share anything that you really want to talk about specifically as it comes to Private Practice Warrior.
Okay.
Things we haven't covered yet.
No, I think we're kind of hitting that. I mean, there's a lot of, like, they can get into specifics, so we really don't need to get into specifics. Like I said, I'm really focused on just getting people aware of the inner game. I mean, there can be things like it is the mastery service. Those two things to really focus on. I can describe more about what the book looks like, because it's not I didn't write it like a business book. It's a story.
Yeah, share with us about that. That'd be great.
Yeah, so stuff like that, where I like how people learn more from stories. And so as the character learns, so do you. So, yeah.
So what are some of...
Katie, I wanted to jump in and ask you, because you talked a little bit about your own experience recently with the launch of like working to master the inner game and the mindset issues that pop up when we launch. And I know you have some like strategies that you use on a regular basis. You have routine to help you master the inner game. And I thought it would be helpful for you to share that too.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't know I was being interviewed. I got anxious all of a sudden.
Putting you on the spot, girl.
Yeah, because I mean, there can be like specific stuff that I do to help myself get back focused, or even routines that put me in a mindset. Like those kind of things could be, people need that.
Yeah. Share what it is that you do, and then I'll share what I do.
Okay, yeah, like for me, like getting focused, I'll do like a box breathing pattern for a good, maybe 5 to 10 times before I focus on what I'm going to do. And seeing myself doing that, and to me, I'm more productive when I do. I'll go at tasks for maybe 30 to 40 minutes at a time, then I'm taking a 5-minute break because I know I'll be more productive on that. There's a lot of different things. Like I do the same thing when a client comes in. It's the way I stand up, whatever I grab to go to greet them. Everything's the same. That gets my mind, body in line with what it is I need to do. Stuff like that.
Nice. As you mentioned that, Chris, I kind of think about really understanding people who are super successful, thinking about like Steve Jobs and things like that. And other entrepreneurs, there's things that they do actually to conserve their energy. So Steve Jobs, he's not notorious, but he's famous for the black turtleneck, right, and the jeans. And one of the reasons he did that is because that's like wasted time and energy trying to figure out what you're going to wear and where you're going, right? So having those routines and those systems, even as Kate and I do the podcast, she always takes the picture. Obviously, if she's not here, I'll take that. But we have a certain task. And, it's not like, well, I always do that every time. Why don't you do it? No, it's just like, we know it, we do it. It's going to take more time for us to do the opposite thing. For me, what I do a lot of, I call it me first in the morning, right? Because if I don't get me first in, that's probably not going to happen. Ever since I've done business coaching back in 2015 and became a reader, I do try to read every morning. I also sometimes do a mix, sometimes meditation. But what I've been doing recently, I'm about to finish Hal Elrod's second book, actually his first book, which is Miracle Morning. I already read The Miracle Equation. But there was parts, so Hal Elrod talks about SAVERS. So SAVERS stands for silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And so he talks about, he's researched and assessed all like successful people, and they do a mixture of these things each morning. And so, recently what I've been doing is writing down the commitment that I have for the next 100 days. And that's through John Lee Dumas's Entrepreneur on Fire Freedom Journal. Yeah. So that's been really great for me because I'm definitely a task driven person. So it keeps me super focused because like you said, all the shiny objects can really pull us away. So I've been doing that, and I definitely exercise because sometimes I have some anxious energy that I really need to get rid of. So I definitely work out, and it's kind of also like oil to the tin man for me. Got a lot of like aches and, cracks and things going on there. So that's part of what I do. And then having a business partner like Kate is awesome because we definitely step into the space with each other and share when something is just kind of up for us and not going well. So that's helpful. But I think as therapists, one of the things is we're interested in the psyche anyway. So we have an opportunity, right, to really utilize what we're experiencing, right, in the face of business entrepreneurship and take it on, like you said, as a challenge, right, and a challenge to overcome. So that's one of the reasons I just love being an entrepreneur. It's the mirror in front of your face every day, and it's you and you.
Yeah, no, I do a lot of stuff to like you said, between exercise and meditation, and do what I can to take care of my brain because that's what enables me to do everything. And so there's a lot of like how mental training or mental practices that go on to make sure that, how do you deal with overwhelm and, managing your day-to-day stuff that's going on. So, and that's where I think a lot of the stuff that I've done with the mental toughness, the mental training, a lot of that stuff that I've been involved with have changed a lot of that, where I've been more productive, get more done. I feel more relaxed, and I can do a better job helping people.
Yeah. And I know one of the crucial part is as we get into the business aspect, one of the mistakes that most people make is working too much in the business, right? So a lot of time planning and looking and identifying like what is in support of your goals, that stuff is really important. I know that we want to get a lot to the doing, right? Because we feel like the doing creates the results. And so sometimes that's a hard shift to step back and really plan and work on the business.
Yeah, that's a good point because that's exactly where I talk about the inner game getting you, because those questions like what kind of practice do you really want? What kind of practice is really going to benefit the lifestyle that you want to have? Who do you really want to work with? All those like prep stuff to get yourself figured out on a purpose, mission. People just want to like jump in and like, okay, should I take insurance? Should I not take insurance? Should I do And to me, that rush and that thing, that's where it slowly just gets you to forget about why you're doing this, and you get a great practice, but it's not what you wanted and you feel miserable.
Yeah. So, Chris, what do you most want people to take away from your message today?
To me, the biggest part would just be don't ever, ever, ever forget about the inner game. It's there all the time, even when you're learning, when you're asking questions. It's just there. You can't escape it. It's going on all the time. But the best part of it to me is if you want to be a better person, like if you want to grow, then you have to be able to be put in uncomfortable situations that challenge you. And when that happens, it's not the most pleasant, but it's a great opportunity during that time to learn about you and your normal tendencies. And you find out, that wasn't very productive in that. And being able to shift that. And to me, that's what, life is all about. And so to me, it's like I said, with Private Practice Warriors, it's you grow through your practice. That's the idea. It's not just to become an expert at marketing because, wow, and look what I can do with my practice. A lot of it is so you can become a better person, a better spouse, a better parent, a better community person through what you do. And that's what you stand for. And some of that title I forgot to mention, like the Private Practice Warrior piece, like when people walk in a room and they're like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a physician. Like, whoa, instant respect. You walk in and like, what do you do? I'm a therapist. Oh, you don't have.
Let me run away because you're psychoanalyzing me.
Yeah. So there's this time where it's like, we don't have this cohesive thing that it's like, okay, you're in private practice. It should be like, oh my gosh, like now I know if I go to you, I know you're going to help me out because I know how you are, what you stand for, what you've kind of like been through, that you help people because you're like, wow, that should be looked at on a respectful level more so than out there because we don't have a title. We're entrepreneurs or therapreneurs or something, or business people. And I'm like in the book, I mentioned like there's samurais, there are Spartans. For us, it's like we're private practice warriors, something like that has some cohesion to it.
Nice. So I know that you have been mentioning your book, and I know that you actually have a giveaway for our audience. What is that?
Yes, I will definitely give all the audience people a free copy of my book.
Awesome.
I think in the show notes, if y'all leave the link there, and if it's not in there, all you have to do is go to iamchrisSwenson.com, and everything is all there. And a special bonus with that too. So.
Cool. And we will definitely leave that in the show notes for ease. So you guys can just click, on the link for the podcast and everything will be there. So Chris, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for the validation and support of what Kate and I share and teach and do. It's always just nice to hear kind of from the other side and reflections back. Startup Nation, you definitely want to join us next week because this is an episode that you guys requested. Again, we really tried to serve you. So we're going to be talking with Barbara, and Barbara is going to share all about progress note stuff. So the things that you might be missing in your progress notes in regards to having good progress notes, but also for insurance stuff. So next week's a strategy talk, not an inner game talk.
And we want to take a moment to do a quick shout out for our Startup Nation superheroes. And this one is super sweet. It's from Ireland Under the Sun, who says, great resource. Awesome. Thank you, Ireland Under the Sun, for letting us know that you're finding this to be valuable. And we love to get feedback from you guys because that's why you are why we do what we do. And when we get that feedback that we're providing content that's valuable, that's inspiring, that's really on point, it just inspires us to keep going. So definitely we encourage you to subscribe, rate, review our show, share with your friends and colleagues. And we always love to give the shout outs on every episode. So definitely send us an email. Let us know.
Startup Nation, thank you so much for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery. We hope you have an awesome and inspired day. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.